Man, no, Caitlyn yeah, she's a beast, man. Like, and they love her. So I'll probably say Caitlyn Clark. I love Tyrese, but she's another level in terms
Yeah.
of just
There is a moment, somewhere in the middle of an ordinary basketball season, when the loudest men in the sport suddenly go quiet, and then, one by one, they don't. Something happens on a basketball court in Indiana that the biggest names in the NBA cannot stop talking about, and it has nothing to do with a championship. A four-time MVP starts comparing her release to his own. A four-time champion starts comparing her rookie year to his. And somewhere in Boston, a different kind of answer gets given, one that says more by what it leaves out than what it includes. Three different reactions. Three different men. One player at the center of all of it, and by the time you understand why each of them said what they said, you'll understand something about fame, jealousy, and respect that most people never get to see up close. So let's start with the man who almost never gets surprised by anything on a basketball court anymore, because what he saw made him stop scrolling and start talking. It's February of 2024. Stephen Curry has already won 4 championships and 2 MVPs. He has nothing left to prove and nothing to gain by talking about a college player 1,000 miles away from the league he dominates. And yet there he is on camera, unprompted, dissecting her game like a scout. Her release time is identical to mine, he says. Pause on that for a second. Not similar. Not comparable. Identical. Coming from the best shooter who has ever lived, that is not a compliment, that is a verdict. He keeps going. Her confidence, you can't help but watch when she plays. The range she's shooting from, the flare. And then the line that would follow her for the rest of her career, she's a performer if you watch. Her floor game is as impressive as her shot. Kind of the total package. Total package. From Steph Curry. About a college junior who hadn't been drafted, hadn't been doubted yet, hadn't been hit yet. He had no idea what was coming for her. But somehow, even then, he sounded like he was preparing the league for something. A few weeks later, on CBS Mornings, he doubles down, but this time there's a twist nobody expected. He doesn't just praise her. He pushes back on the comparison to himself. I think it almost robs her of like the rest of her game, Curry says, because she's such a good floor general. She has her overall floor game. Think about what that means. The greatest shooter alive is telling the world stop reducing her to a jump shot. He's not just complimenting her. He's protecting her narrative before anyone's even tried to take it from her. That's not a shout-out. That's a warning shot to anyone who is about to underestimate her. And here's where the story takes its first real turn, because 2 years later, the roles flip in a way nobody could have scripted. January 2026. Curry is in a regular season game against Charlotte, getting grabbed, held, and hounded by Colin Sexton and Shawn James all night. After the game, reporters ask him if it bothers him. Curry, calm as ever, says there's a part of it that's flattering proof that he demands enough attention to warrant that kind of defense. He even calls it funny, how aggressive, egregious the contact gets. It's a throwaway answer. A veteran shrugging off rough treatment. Except it doesn't stay throwaway. Because somewhere out there, scrolling through the clip, is the only person in basketball who knows exactly what that feels like from the other side. Caitlin Clark comments. Not a like. Not a heart emoji. Words. We want to see Steph make 12 threes a game. Stop grabbing him, please. Read that again. A WNBA superstar who has spent 2 years getting grabbed, hooked, and knocked down on national television while people argued online about whether she deserved the attention at all. Sees Steph Curry get rough treatment for one night, and immediately, instinctively, defends him. That's not a fan moment. That's recognition. 2 people who live in the exact same kind of spotlight, finding each other in the comment section because nobody else fully understands what they're describing. And it goes further than that. Months later, ESPN's Malika Andrews asks Clark a simple question: if she could play one-on-one against any NBA player, who would she pick? She doesn't hesitate. I would get killed by every NBA player, but Steph Curry. Out of every single player in the league, she picks the one who saw her coming before almost anyone else did. That's not a coincidence. That's a thread, stretched across 2 years, tying back to a single sentence he said about her release time before the world even knew her name. But Curry isn't the only superstar whose story with Clark started long before she became must-watch television, and the next name on this list carries a different kind of weight, because he's not just praising a rookie. He's recognizing himself. LeBron James has spent over 20 years being the most watched athlete on the planet. He knows, better than almost anyone alive, what it feels like to be 18 years old and handed the weight of an entire league's expectations before you've proven anything. So when he talks about Caitlin Clark, it doesn't sound like a celebrity offering a quote for a highlight reel. It sounds personal. In September of 2024, in an interview with Esquire, James says something that goes far beyond basketball. I have a great deal of respect for Caitlin Clark because I know exactly what it means to be drafted, be the face of a franchise, and also get the scrutiny from a lot of people that don't believe you're ready, don't think that you belong. Stop right there. That's not a man complimenting a rookie's jump shot. That's a man describing his own scar tissue and recognizing the exact same wound on someone else. He continues, I remember that when I came into the league at 18 years old, how many people doubted me and hoped and prayed that I'd fail. And then comes the line that turns this from sympathy into something closer to solidarity. Me watching Caitlin and seeing what she's doing, I've been in support of her since day one because I remember myself going through that, and she has my support 100%. Since day one. Before the foul controversies. Before the All-Star snubs. Before the noise got loud enough for the rest of the league to notice, LeBron James was already watching, already recognizing the pattern, already choosing a side. And he didn't stop there. After a career night for Clark late in her rookie season, 31 points, 12 assists, LeBron reposts her stats and fires off a forward message straight at her critics. For words from the most influential athlete alive, aimed directly at the people trying to tear her down. When the second season started, he didn't even need a controversy as an excuse. He simply posted 3 photos of the two of them with a simple line. Good luck and do you per usual this season. No big speech. No call to action. Just a quiet, consistent presence, the same superstar showing up again and again, like he's been assigned to watch over her career from a distance. And then just this year, something almost tender happens. LeBron jokes online about giving up wine and cookies to recover from an injury. Clark responds publicly, I'd rather retire than do this. This is why he's him. And LeBron acknowledges it, clearly pleased that she gets the joke, gets him, gets what the sacrifice actually costs. Two superstars from completely different sports, different leagues, different decades, finding the same easy rhythm that real respect always has. But for every voice that showed up for her, there's a silence that says just as much, and this next one is the moment that splits the room. February 2025. NBA All-Star Weekend. Reporters are working the room, collecting sound bites, and somebody asks Boston Celtics star Jayson Tatum a question that, by now, should have an obvious answer for most NBA players paying attention to women's basketball. Who's your favorite WNBA player? Tatum doesn't hesitate. He doesn't pause to think. Aya Wilson, he says. Immediately.
Confidently.
No mention of Clark at all. Now, before this goes anywhere, understand something important. Aya Wilson is not some random pick. She is the reigning unanimous MVP. She broke the WNBA's all-time single-season scoring and rebounding records that very year. She is, by almost every basketball measure, the best player in the league. Tatum and Wilson have history. They've done commercial campaigns together. They've shared a video game cover. Their friendship goes back to high school. This isn't disrespect. This is loyalty to a real relationship and a real resume. But here's why the moment exploded anyway. Because the question landed in the middle of a cultural storm, a season where Clark's every interaction, every missing mention, every silence from a star was being measured like evidence in a trial. Tatum wasn't making a political statement. He just answered honestly about a friend whose game he respects enormously. And yet the internet didn't hear "I respect my friend." It heard "I didn't say her name," and in this particular moment in sports history, that absence became its own headline, whether Tatum intended it or not. That's the part that should stop you cold. The same 5 words can mean 2 completely different things depending on when they're said. Aya Wilson, 2 years earlier, just an honest answer. Aya Wilson, in the eye of the Clark storm, suddenly a referendum. Nothing about Tatum changed. The temperature of the room around him did. And that, more than any single quote in this entire story, is the real lesson sitting underneath all of it. Look at what you actually have on the table. Steph Curry, comparing a college junior's shot to his own before the world had even drafted her then, 2 years later, being defended by that same player in a comments section like two soldiers from the same unit recognizing each other across a battlefield. LeBron James, looking at a 22-year-old rookie, and seeing his own 18-year-old self, choosing to stand beside her before it was popular, before it was safe, before anyone else in his position had to. And Jayson Tatum simply telling the truth about a friend, and discovering that in this moment, in this exact cultural pressure cooker, the truth itself can be read as a verdict whether you meant it that way or not. None of these men coordinated. None of them were told what to say. Curry didn't know, in February of 2024, that the player he was praising would spend the next 2 years getting hammered on national television while the league stayed mostly silent. LeBron didn't know his Esquire interview would become a defining quote people returned to years later. And Tatum certainly didn't know that naming his actual favorite player would get filtered through a controversy that had nothing to do with him. That's what makes this story different from a highlight reel of nice quotes. It's not really about basketball at all. It's about how the same words spoken at different moments, in different rooms, under different amounts of pressure can mean something completely different by the time they reach you. Stephen Curry saw a shooter who reminded him of himself and ended up describing a connection that outlasted the moment he made it. LeBron James saw a wound he recognized and turned a passing comment into a standing promise. And Jayson Tatum gave an honest, simple answer and learned the way most public figures eventually do, that in this particular season, in this particular spotlight, silence and honesty can look identical from the outside even when they're not the same thing at all. 3 reactions. 1 player at the center. And a basketball world that 2 years later is still trying to figure out exactly what it watched.